Welcome to the Now. I'm Ashley Jenkins.
And I'm Gus Sorola.
Could presidential politics be affecting our favorite hobby, and not in a political content sort of way? It's actually about game prices. Are they about to go up? I mean, at least for those living in the U.S., possibly.
It could happen under the Trump administration, which has proposed imposing tariffs that could increase the price of imported games by as much as 10%, according to news reports.
And as far as what that ultimately means, well, if your favorite console or video games are made overseas, so take The Witcher 3 or anything from Rockstar North, or, well, pretty much everything Nintendo does, just as an example, they could cost more if tariffs are ultimately approved.
What's more, Trump has signed an order to withdraw from the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which could further affect game and console prices. Yeah, that Nintendo Switch you wanted could get a little more expensive.
Well, it's probably going to take longer than Switch to get into it.
Are they going to switch the prices? Let's switch.
All right, so let's delve into this a little bit more. First, a disclaimer. Look, we're not talking about politics of tariffs versus free trade, just looking at how Trump's proposal could affect game prices. That's really all we care about right here, right now.
Care about a lot more, but that's all we're talking about right
here, right now.
First off, what is a tariff? It's basically a tax that governments sometimes place on imported or exported goods. The idea, in Trump's case, is to make imported goods more expensive so companies in the US will produce more of their goods here. The tariffs currently being discussed might not specifically target games, but if they're aimed at consumer goods, games would definitely be considered in that category.
Early in the history of the United States, tariffs were pretty much the source of all federal revenue. For more than 100 years, the government was mostly financed by a 20% tariff on foreign imports. That's changed over the years as the US government and others have adopted more free trade policies, especially over the last 20 years.
So how could a tariff possibly affect your copy of Breath of the Wild?
In short, because video games are a very international industry. A lot of people around the world play games, and a lot of people make them too. Obviously, Japan, for one example, is a huge producer and consumer of video games. Nintendo and Sony are both headquartered there, and for years, Japan was the unquestioned leader in console gaming. I mean, that's changing an awful lot, but there are still a lot of games made there.
But now there are a ton of developers pretty much everywhere. The US has its own thriving industry, and Europe is a big player too. And that's where CD Projekt Red is located, along with Rockstar North, which works on Grand Theft Auto games, Arcane Studios, which did Dishonored, and Playdead, which made Inside. All of those developers will potentially be affected in the US market by a tariff.
Oh, and Hello Games.
Hello Games.
Might have had to pay 10% more to be disappointed in that one.
Industry groups are definitely taking notice of all this. The Entertainment Software Association is preparing for the possibility that Trump's administration will impose tariffs on games, according to Polygon. The ESA represents game developers and companies and is reportedly formulating a plan to deal with the possibility of tariffs.
But they're not exactly revealing details about that yet. Polygon reached out to try to figure out what the ESA's stance on tariffs is and what kind of impact they might have on the industry. An ESA spokesman told Polygon that they're looking into the issue and can provide more information shortly.
But it's not just video games. Tariffs could even affect the price of comic books. A bunch of publishers, including DC and Marvel, print some of their issues, graphic novels, and collected editions in Canada and overseas, which means their prices could also go up under a tariff, according to Newsarama. The North American Free Trade Agreement prevents the U.S. from imposing tariffs against Canadian goods if they meet certain criteria, but Trump could be in the process of renegotiating NAFTA, so, like everything else, who knows?
We'll see, I guess. The idea behind tariffs overall is a pretty decent thing. It's to protect American businesses and spur them to make their goods domestically, which has been a centerpiece of Trump's campaign. He's talked a lot about curbing free trade, arguing that it hurts the U.S.'s competitiveness, and encouraged businesses to move to countries where labor is cheaper.
Trump's transition team is currently discussing imposing tariffs as high as 10% on imports, according to CNN. Previously, they had floated a 5% figure, but officials now say they're more likely to go with the higher number.
The danger, though, is that tariffs could spark a trade war with countries like China, whose economy has been booming and is becoming increasingly a power player in world economics, and further drive up the cost of consumer goods in the U.S.
And tariffs are opposed by a lot of business groups like the Chamber of Commerce, the National Association of Manufacturers, and others who think they would lead to retaliation against U.S. industries that depend on exports, hence the trade war that we just talked about.
Right, so when bringing all that back to video games, well, that $60 game might theoretically go up to maybe $66 with a tariff, and let's face it, it's not like the businesses are going to eat the cost. They will absolutely pass it on to consumers. It could go up even more if other countries decide to cut off the supply of materials it takes to mass produce video games.
We'll have to wait and see what happens, but the video game industry is a multi-billion-dollar one, and any tariff that comes down could definitely affect the price of your games if you live in the United States.
So, what do you think of possible tariffs affecting video games and their prices? Would you be open to paying a little bit more to encourage games to be made in the US? Is it bullshit? Let us know what you think in the comments.
I am betting you're not going to have one comment that says that that's okay. And for all your gaming and tariff news, be sure to like this video and subscribe to The Know.
Now there'll be one comment that's like, that's okay.
Yeah, they can send me $66 and I'll buy the game for them, keep the $6 and then send it to them.
I mean, looking at it like economically, as with the cost of living and everything, video games have stayed the same price for like 20 plus years.
They went from 50 to 60.
Okay, so they went up